Welcome to the Membership Guys podcast. Kick-ass advice and tips for membership site owners.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 33 of the Membership Guys podcast. I'm your host Mike Morrison and we've got a great show lined up for you today. I'm joined today by Chris Ducker, who a lot of you guys will know of. He's a big name, he's well known in the world of online business. And Chris's thing is all about building a business around your brand, around a personal brand. Now, Chris actually launched his own membership site, Youpreneur, about 6 months or so ago. So I took the opportunity to chat to Chris about his experiences in launching Youpreneur and how he built his own global brand with a membership site at the heart of it. So we had a very good chat. There were a lot of value bombs, as Chris would say, shared about Chris's business, about how Youpreneur came to be, about his experiences in running it alongside public speaking and traveling around the world. So this was a great interview. I know you're going to love it. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into my chat with Chris Ducker. Alright, so I am joined on today's show by Chris Ducker, founder of Youpreneur, all-round good egg, and of course, fellow Brit, so there's a chance that he might actually be able to understand my accent as well. Chris, welcome to the show.
I mean, well, you're from up north, so I might not understand.
Oh, well, I used to get a lot of stick. I've softened my accent quite a bit now. I get a lot of stick from my family who are proper dyed-in-the-wool northerners.
Well, and it's funny, particularly like, as podcasters, because obviously I podcast as well. So, I mean, I know what it's like. Like, being English in the podcasting world is a really good thing.
Yeah, it's a rarity, isn't it?
It's very, very rare. There's a lot of great podcasts that just focus on the UK market, for example, or maybe they are UK hosts, but they focus on European markets, whatever. But if you're more in tune and more aligned of having a much larger international audience, particularly one that's very US centric, and you're talking with a lot of US guests, particularly if you're looking to try and get in front of, big influencers, for example, being a Brit, man, I tell you what, they remember you. Like, they really remember you. And it really does help. I mean, I've been podcasting almost 6 years now. My first ever podcast episode that I published was in April 2010. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes of my own over a course, a number of different shows, and then just as many as an interview, subject, victim, whatever you want to call it. But it's, definitely we are the lone wolves in the podcasting world, but sometimes being a bigger fish in a smaller pond, so to speak, is a good idea.
Definitely, and I think there's years of indoctrination through Bond villains or English villains that perhaps make us stand out a little bit more.
It's funny you say that. Me and my wife went to see the new movie yesterday, Deadpool.
Yeah,
which was great fun.
It's such a great movie, isn't it?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. But I turned to her and I said to her, why are all the villains in comic book movies English? Like, why is that? Why are the baddies always English in films? And she turns around and she goes, it's that accent of yours. It sounds so bloody evil.
Yeah. It's either,
what is that?
You're either the epitome of evil or you are, quaint royalty kind of, or the nerdy type. Yeah. You can't be kind of anywhere in the middle.
No, you can't. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what all your audience listeners tuned in for, is to hear us talking about how great English people are. Let's talk about membership site.
Yeah. Well, considering that they probably won't even be able to get through the accent anyway, so it's just a whole load of noise.
They've gone. They've already tuned out. They've gone.
Well, for those of us who are still around, many of our listeners will know of you through your book, Virtual Freedom. You're doing a lot in the space around outsourcing. And kind of creating that freedom in your life, freedom in your business through seeking out help, outsourcing tasks in your business. Obviously, kind of now through Youpreneur, helping online business owners get ahead on a broader scale. Is that a deliberate change, that shift from kind of being really well known as the outsourcing guy to the more hands-on direct helping with online entrepreneurs through Youpreneur? Is that deliberate? Has it been a natural development?
And I was very deliberate, very, very deliberate. I've been in business as an entrepreneur for 12 years. I've been in the outsourcing world almost 14 years now. I've run my own businesses inside the outsourcing industry, still do 2 different businesses.
And these are proper bricks and mortar. I think what a lot of people possibly miss as well is you've got serious bricks and mortar, hundreds of staff who, you recently take along to a booked out IMAX theatre for. So, a lot of the names online, a lot of the recognizable figures, they don't have that bricks and mortar traditional kind of business.
Yeah, and I think that helps me stand out a little bit more. And people don't expect it as from an online entrepreneur slash influencer. They don't expect it to the point like I had lunch with Gary Vaynerchuk probably, I don't know, what was it, a year and a half or so ago, maybe 2 years ago now, if my memory serves me right. But we're sat there in San Diego, we're just shooting the shit a little bit and having some fun. And then he said to me, like, so how many people have you got working for you right now? And at the time we had like 300 and something people. Yeah. And he was like, man, you're beating me at VaynerMedia. Like we had like 280. And then like we were tweeting like, I don't know, 6 months after or something. And he was like, I'm beating you now. We've just hired 60 more people. And we've gone backwards and forwards like that on email as well. Like, so it's, I think what it is it allows people to see that, having a brick and mortar business in the online world is very, 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 very rare. Very small percentage of people do it. And now, the only difference is that I have really nothing to do with the day-to-day operations of those businesses. I just happen to own and operate them. Yeah. So I have management in place. What I do day-to-day is exactly what the large majority of people do in the online business space, and that is create content, market it, converse with members, hang out with customers, put on live events, do all the fun stuff that I enjoy doing. So a lot of what I do day-to-day now, I don't even class as work, quite frankly, because I enjoy doing these interviews like this. I enjoy getting on to do a Duckerscope show on Periscope, or I enjoy putting together a keynote, slide deck for when I'm going to be presenting, at an event. I enjoy doing all that stuff. I don't look at it as work. But when I step into the call center and I have a management meeting, man, it's like I'm working. Yeah. But they're big businesses and they make big money, and therefore, I'm quite happy to carry on working with them.
Again, we talk about that online stuff, the fun stuff that you do, and that move away from being the outsourcing guy. From I've seen presentations from years ago where a lot of the stuff that was you've been asked to do or been interviewed about was around outsourcing.
It was. And I think, to get back though to your original question, like, was it on purpose to move away from that? It was, because I felt as if I had pigeonholed myself a little bit with that VA guy kind of title. And virtual assistants and outsourcing and delegation as a whole is still a big part of my business world, obviously. But for me personally, I wrote a book. I wrote Virtual Freedom. It's almost 300 pages. I'm done. There's nothing more for me to give. There's only so many things that I can talk about when it comes to, how to hire, train, manage, and work with a VA to grow your business. There's only so many questions and so many scenarios and so many tools to use, et cetera, et cetera. And, throughout the course of doing that, I was able to create a personal brand for myself, which opened up so many doors for me in different areas as an entrepreneur. And that is now what I focus on with Youpreneur, with chrisducker.com, with the podcast and everything else I do, is I focus on helping people build businesses based around their brands. So if you think of people like coaches and authors, speakers, experts, consultants, bloggers, podcasters, they are now my avatar. They're my, prospective customer at the end of the day.
Yeah. And was that daunting? Was it a scary change? Because a lot of people, when they pivot, or when I wouldn't even classify it as a pivot, they refine their positioning. They don't always do it from a situation where they're booking speaking gigs. They're being asked on podcast interviews. They've got successful blog and all that. Was it daunting moving away from having achieved a certain level of visibility for that one thing? Was there ever a point at which it was kind of, well, do I just kind of stick with this because...
Yeah, no, there certainly was. And if I'm to be honest, it creeps back every now and then. going back to my comment of being a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
When you think about there aren't that many people in the outsourcing world that have the reputation that I do. In fact, there's like no one. Like I really am the VA guy. And still to this day, at this point anyway, beginning of 2016, 70% of the speaking gigs that I get booked for are for virtual assistant / team building / delegation type principles. But that is changing. That is changing. And the focus now of building the personal brand, and creating what I call the business of you is now becoming something that I focus on more and more. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said that, I doubted it or I second guessed it in any way, shape or form. I absolutely did. But I also knew in my heart of hearts that if I was to continue to enjoy what I did online, I needed to make this pivot because, quite frankly, I was kind of sick and tired of talking about VAs 24 hours a day. Somebody said to me the other day, are you going to do an expanded version of Virtual Freedom? And I was like, I would rather open up my eyelid on a rusty nail. You know what I mean? Like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I love my book. And I love what it stands for. And we're actually going to do another big relaunch for the 2nd anniversary this coming April with lots of bonuses and everything. But no, this is my focus now. This is where I am going forward.
And of course, that brings us to the Youpreneur brand. It's such a great brand that's clear that you're very passionate about. It's a labor of love for you, right? How did that spark come about? Where did the inspiration come from?
I mean, it was kind of like it was stored in the in the bank for a while, for a few years. Every time I travel for the last 5 years, I've been doing small mastermind events where I have sort of 8 to 10 people around a table, conference room in a hotel, or maybe a hotel suite or a co-working spot or something like that. And I charge a nominal fee, make it a little bit of money, but it's more about getting my community together face to face. And so people get to meet each other and all the rest of it. And I found from doing all these events 2 very clear discoveries. Number one, nobody has a monopoly on good ideas. If you get a load of like-minded people together, they're going to drop value bombs on each other. By the end of the day, I mean, you could put Richard Branson in a room full of 10 totally unknown successful entrepreneurs. He would have a value bomb or 2 dropped on him as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Even with all his experience, right? So that was the first thing. The second thing, probably more important, was that I noticed that by bringing these people together, even in small groups, I was helping to cure entrepreneurial loneliness to a certain degree, because it is a lonely journey when you're building a business, particularly an online business. And you and the missus, I mean, you work from home just like I do, and it can get lonely. It can get lonely when you're focusing on your little whiteboard and your computer, and you're living in the online world. It can get lonely, and I noticed that by bringing people together like that, I was curing that entrepreneurial loneliness. And I wanted to bring these 2 things together and do it on an ongoing basis. But the angle was, an open book, in what way, for what reasons. Yeah. I know you had Pat Flynn on the show not so long ago. He and I are basically best friends, and we were hanging out with each other a couple of years ago now. What was it? It would have been 2014, July 4, so Independence Day in the US, at his house in San Diego. We had just got done having a water balloon fight. It was just me and Pat, not the kids. No, the kids were involved as well. And the girls were in the living room having a drink or whatever, having a chin wag. And myself and Pat went into his office. We had a cup of coffee and we sat down. We kind of got a little deep, as we sometimes do with our conversations. We're both fathers and husbands and all that sort of stuff, as well as all the business stuff. And he asked me outright, he said, where do you want to be 5 years from now? What do you want to be doing 5 years from now? And after, some back and forth, it sort of just came out that this was the group of people that I wanted to serve. And this is what I wanted to do. And at the time, I'd started to do my Business of You keynote quite regularly live. I debuted that right at the beginning of 2014. I'd done it a few times before that chat with Pat, and I've done it a whole bunch of times since then. And I noticed that the message behind the Business of You keynote actually really resonated with live audiences. And so we started talking about the different types of people and all the rest of it. And boom, out of nowhere, Pat says the word Youpreneur.
Love it.
And I look at him and I'm like, oh, USOB. Oh, now that's that. Now that's it. That's it. And that was kind of where it was all born. And we knew it was, I say we, I mean me and my wife Urs and my team. We knew it was going to be a membership site. We knew we wanted it recurring. We knew we wanted those things because we wanted to really devote ourselves going forward to this particular movement and this focus. And so, we launched it September 1 last year. You are a proud Youpreneur member yourself.
I am indeed.
I'm all about serving people that want to build a brand, or rather build a business around their brand going forward. That's where my focus is now. And Youpreneur is the vehicle.
Awesome. Now, just a little segue there, because you've dropped a little bomb there. Pat Flynn came up with the brand name. Now, knowing how competitive you guys are, did he make you beg for it?
No, not at all.
Did he threaten to keep a hold of that term just for himself?
No, not at all. I mean, it was very clearly mine, even though the word first was uttered by himself. But it was funny, I remember him saying at some point, that's your thing, man. That's you. Like, I'm not going to mention it anywhere. I'm not going to do it. It's all you. And, and you don't need to tell anybody that I came up with it, as a name. Like, you don't need to do that, which basically is Pat saying, I own this.
Now I own you.
We all know who came up with this kind of thing. So at first, it was funny. At first, I didn't mention to anybody that he came up with it, but I felt really bad about it as well, because you got to give respect where respect is due. And I've helped him with many things as well. And, I don't take credit for any of those things, just like he doesn't take credit for the Youpreneur word, name, brand, whatever you want to call it. But he did. He came up with a name. I put it out there. He genuinely did. But he didn't pay for the ridiculously overpriced domain name. So it's mine, not his. I'm going to call that.
And for any of our listeners, just a reminder, you are listening to this special episode about how Pat Flynn inspired a plucky young Brit with this membership site. A nice big picture of Pat plastered next to a little thumbnail of Chris.
Yeah, let's do that. He will really like that.
I might have to make up a fake podcast image just for that.
You should do that.
Now,
I love it.
I want to pick up a couple of times you mentioned this word there, serve. And that's such a key word, because I think, and yourself, I think we've talked about this, you'll have seen this, a lot of people, when it comes to membership sites, are divided into two types of people. People who see them as this holy grail of passive income, plug and play, continuity, 7 figures without doing a single thing, never getting up off your backside kind of thing. Then you have the other side who recognize that there's a lot of work, you're nurturing a community, you're building this ever-accumulating, ever-improving product. And I think that word there, serve, the membership sites, the good ones, the successful ones, are where the founder, the owner, is there to serve their audience, serve their community.
Yes, exactly.
Was there more work involved in getting it going and obviously building that initial momentum? Was there anything that surprised you about running a membership site?
There wasn't more work involved in getting it out there and building momentum. I knew what was needed, and we went to work with that. We knew what we were going to need to do to build up the buzz before launch it with a bang, which we certainly did, and then serve those early adopter type members properly, and try and obviously minimize churn, which I believe we've done to a certain degree, but we've also pivoted a little bit as well since launching Youpreneur in terms of who it's for. Not a lot, but we pivoted, I think, our message above and beyond anything else. The content is still relatively the same, et cetera, et cetera. But no, there wasn't a lot more work involved in getting it out there. But there has been more work involved in a maintenance way, sort of on a monthly basis. Not necessarily more work for me per se, personally, but more just in the background, just behind the scenes. And we've got pretty much all of it under control now. But the first 2 or 3 months, we were reeling a little bit. It's like a duck on top of a pond.
Yeah.
Above the water, everything looks really nice and calm and nice and pretty and everything. And then underneath, the 2 little legs are going like crazy. That was kind of like what it was like at Team Ducker for a couple of months. It didn't help that I launched and then a week later was traveling for 3 weeks, around the world. Like, that was stupid. We will never do that again. But no, I mean, we're 6 months in now, almost a couple of weeks away from 6 months, and we've taken care of all of the the behind the scenes hiccups, and it wasn't really hiccups. It was just, how do we handle this? Day to day. We had a rough idea what we needed to do, but yeah, we've definitely had to change and put new processes in place and all that sort of stuff. But it's part of course of building a business, and that's exactly what it is on the very at the very core of Youpreneur. It's another business model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what we see, certainly compared to launching courses or launching standalone products, where everything in terms of your effort, in terms of your drive, pretty much happens in the lead up to the launch. When the launch happens, then you've kind of done your job. Yes, you're spreading the word and all of that, but with a membership site, that's often where the hard work starts, is after the doors have opened.
Yes. Yes.
And obviously you don't always know what kind of community you're going to get to. So I'd imagine that shapes a lot of what you do with Youpreneur as well.
Yeah, it does. It does. And like I said, when we first launched, we did a really big successful launch. It was very, very successful. Then we did another big scarcity launch at our price increase at the end of the first month, which was even more successful than the initial launch itself, which we were very, very happy with. And then we went into maintenance mode for a while, and we saw a little bit of churn. I was a little unsure of what was happening up till sort of maybe the end of 2015. So we're talking, a few months after launch. I'm looking at the numbers, seeing how things are going from a monthly member perspective anyway. I was a little bit concerned at first, but now things have definitely calmed down and they've kind of plateaued and leveled out in terms of those churn numbers. Yeah. And now, as you well know yourself, I mean, you're the expert on this, not me. It comes down to making sure, quite frankly, you're bringing in more people than you are losing. And that's it. There's no real magic pill to pop. It really comes down to numbers in terms of making it a viable business opportunity. The one thing that I am very, very happy with and extremely proud of when it comes to the Youpreneur members is that, number one, we're getting the right people in there.
Yeah.
And that for me is the most important thing. Rather than huge numbers, I'd rather have the right people in there. People that are action takers, that are there to also support each other as well as get the support from other people. And that genuinely do take action. And because they take action, they see results. And I mean, you see it yourself. You're in there. You can see who the action takers and who aren't. And the other thing I'm very proud of is that, we have about a 45% of our members are annual members.
That's a big percentage. Yeah.
Which I think is a big chunk compared to most membership owners that I've spoken with. The monthly is definitely, a much larger share, but 45% to 55%, I'll take that. I'm very, very happy with that number.
Definitely. And, I've obviously mentioned I'm part of Youpreneur, and through what we do, I join lots of membership sites, and I usually stick around for a few months.
Sure.
And for any of you guys who own a membership site and my name pops up, don't take that as a reason to just elbow me out of the door, worried that I'm going to leave. But I'll join a membership site initially for research purposes, keeping the finger on the pulse, see what other people are doing, and I'll check out the content and so on. Youpreneur is one of the right now. It's actually the only membership site that I'm an active member of.
Very cool. That's good to know.
Yeah. And the reason is it's a great community. Like you said, there's a lot of quality members in there who are taking action, who are making things happening. And obviously the work that you and the team put into it and the passion that you put into it is evident. There's some great stuff in there. I haven't even gotten round to watching the Tropical Think Tank videos yet.
See, that right there is a jewel. That for me is like the jewel in the crown.
Yeah.
Because Tropical Think Tank is, for those tuning in that don't know what it is, that's my very exclusive, very intimate, very expensive live event that I do in the Philippines every year. It's $4,200 per ticket. There's only 50 slots available each year, and whenever we put the tickets on sale each June, they sell out in a matter of weeks. Literally. And so we're talking about $4,200 just to be there at the event. Yeah. And anybody who's a Youpreneur member, whether it's monthly or annual, they get access to the entire archive of Tropical Think Tank keynote presentations. And there's 9 each year. So, we've had guys like Lewis Howes, Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas. With this year, we've got Brian Clark, Peter Shankman, Hal Elrod. I mean, these are major influencers fly to the Philippines. And so if you can't afford the $4,200, just become a Youpreneur member. You get them all for free. And we've had a ton of people say that, just the quality of that content alone would be enough for them to keep paying each month or each year, knowing that there's another 9 videos like that coming each year. But obviously, we do a lot more than that on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, if you, in terms of the value proposition of that, if you look at a lot of the conferences out there that'll charge multiple times what even an annual membership for Youpreneur will cost just to get access to the recordings.
Yes.
On a year-to-year basis. Whereas, and I know there's a lot of stuff going around about events that are taking place now where the cost of those recordings are almost as much as the cost of a ticket would have been to attend live.
It's just crazy.
Now actually that kind of brings me quite nicely to the next thing I want to discuss about Youpreneur. It's event season. You've got Tropical Think Tank coming up, Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, which we'll both be at.
Yes.
And this is kind of the first time you're out there on that circuit really since fully launching Youpreneur. Is that right?
It is. I mean, we launched September 1. Obviously, I did New Media Europe, which was in the middle of September last year. So that was the first time I ever actually did the Youpreneur keynote. So there is a keynote presentation now that goes along with that. It's basically the Business of You keynote with a load of tweaks and a rename of it, basically. But I did that, and then I did another couple of live events in the UK. But, events in the UK are
still quite small.
Not as they're small. We're talking 200-300 people in the audience, where when I keynote in the United States, it'd be upward of 1,000 people. So it's kind of interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I'm not doing a lot of speaking this year. I do a lot more speaking in September, October, when I'm back in the US for about 4 or 5 gigs. But other than that, I'm not doing a lot of speaking this year because I want to focus on the growth of Youpreneur. But it's going to be interesting to see just the general feel for it with people in person and meeting up with the members, obviously, and all that stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, has it has having Youpreneur there, and that's a product that, as we said, is broader and has a lot more appeal than just the outsourcing side of things. You've got this big brand to take up there. Is that changing your approach to the events, or are you kind of, you mentioned the keynote is sort of similar to the Business of You. Are you changing things up? Is it kind of exciting you and revving you up to go out there on this platform with Youpreneur available?
Yeah, it is. Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. And I'm becoming a little bit more picky as well. It's funny. They're 2 totally different worlds, 2 totally different discussion points and dynamics. When you talk about delegation and team building through virtual staff to building a business based around your brand, you couldn't get any more different animals, right? And so, whereas before, I used to speak at a lot of, large, small business and entrepreneur type events. Now I'm going more towards, speaking in front of, a few hundred coaches at the same time, or at events for authors, or at events for consultants and those sort of types of things. And I'm not turning my back on the online business world events either, because they've been very, very good for me in helping me build my personal brand. So social media marketing world, those kind of events, I'll speak at those events whenever I can, and I'll thoroughly enjoy it. But no, it's really revving me up this year. And I'm really looking forward to event season, September, October, later this year. I can't wait to go over to the US and drop some value bombs from very, very great heights on the crowd over there.
I'm trying to avoid looking at the event schedule in the US for September, October, because Callie's chomping at the bit for an excuse to go back to the US in October. And I keep trying to tell her we kind of, let's rein it in. Let's have a year where we don't just keep hopping over, because it gets a little pricey coming from the UK. But she's got her eyes on podcast. Can't even remember when podcast movement's on. She's trying.
I think that's in the summer.
Right?
Yeah, probably a little too close. Following Sand.
Not for Callie. Not for Callie. So yeah, I think she just she's trying to find a good solid event in Vegas to take us back to. But yeah, we pick the city and then look for an event there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Vegas is a great spot as well. There's always a lot of events going on in Vegas. I will say one event you might seriously consider from a business perspective is going to be Jeff Goins' Tribe conference, which is taking place in Nashville in September. I'm keynoting there, and it is just the audience is going to be full to the brim of people that should all have their own membership site. So that would be an interesting one for you guys to consider going to. I think. Man,
this is the part of the podcast I send Callie out the room, and also edit out the mispronunciation of her name.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah. Moving on. Now, obviously, through traveling around, you mentioned before a lot of what you're doing on the back of, speaking of these events, is arranging member meetups. How big a thing is that for you in getting that Youpreneur brand and making Youpreneur more than what the average membership site will be? Because obviously most membership site owners aren't also in a position where they're traveling around the world at events that a large portion of their members may likely be at. How cool is that for you, and how important is that for you to be able to meet up with your members like that?
It's very important for me. And this year I'm kind of just feeling it out a little bit. I'm no virgin to the meetup world. I've held a lot of small events myself before with my online community. I've got people together regularly. We've hung out. We visit. We have met up. Sort of nonchalantly and ad hoc at large events and things like that before. Like I remember I spoke at an event in New Orleans last year, and I just sent out an email to my list, and I said, "Hey, I'm in New Orleans tomorrow afternoon. If anybody wants to come and get some coffee and some beignets, then meet me in this lobby at the hotel." And there was like 9 people turned up, with a day's notice. A couple of guys even traveled into New Orleans just for it. So it was cool. It was very, very cool. So it's a very, very important part of the process for me for Youpreneur. This year is going to be on not an ad hoc basis per se. We are, putting them together properly. But they're going to be very easygoing, very light on my personal bandwidth. And we're just going to have some fun, get people together, take some photos, do some periscopes, have a little bit of fun with it all. But, going into next year, I'd love to be able to do something a little bit more regularly where, we're even contemplating doing something where there's, an actual network of Youpreneur events happening, like first Monday of every month around the world and all those sort of types of things. So, the community is still a little small. We're at like 370 members or something right now. So, we're still growing. And I think that we need to get to a certain amount of critical mass before that will work well. I don't know what that number is right now. But what I do know is, those 350 people are enjoying what we're doing, and we want to try and get them together as much as we can.
Absolutely. And I think when you consider that there are a lot of people running membership sites where it's a struggle for them to even turn up to their own forum or their own Facebook group, when the complete other side of that is obviously a big part of the reason, why Youpreneur is building up the sort of traction that it is.
I mean, I promised myself going into it that I was going to spend time in the forum every day, and I mean every day. So it's a focus. Some days I spend more time than others, obviously. We do have a private Facebook group, as you well know, as well, but I'm very rarely in there. And I made it very clear that I was not going to be in there very often. It was put together, 3-4 months after we launched, and purely because of requests from members. Simple as that. But my focus in terms of conversing and helping and supporting and holding my members accountable is inside the forum, and everybody knows that anyway. So yeah, I'm a man of my word. I'm in there every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Facebook group forum split as well, I'm kind of watching that attentively, purely because usually people kind of go all in on one or go all in on the other. But I like the way that, I wouldn't say under duress, but in response to
it was under duress. Let's make it right. I honestly, I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it, and which is one of the reasons why I'm not spending a lot of time there. I want my focus to be on my own platform, my own content that I own, and that is not sitting on somebody else's rented land. Yeah. And so, I made it very clear that going into it that I was, this was not going to be my focus in terms of conversing with the members. And they all know that. And they know that, if they want to put something by me and want any real, reply from me, that they'll do it inside the forum. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't go into the Facebook group. I do, probably twice a week. I pop in there and I'll, give some comments and maybe post a few things and stuff like that. But ultimately, the focus is on the forum, the private forums. Yeah. And I'm also watching things very closely myself. And I'm very happy to say right now, as it stands, a whole month after launching the Facebook group, we have seen very, very little drop-off between the forum and the group. So far, so good. I'm a happy camper at the moment. And I will state very clearly that if I do see that the Facebook group ends up winning over the forum, at a big number, the chances are I'll kill it. Yeah. Because, Youpreneur is a 10-year plan for me and way beyond, whereas Facebook, I mean, we don't know what the bloody hell they're doing from Monday through to Friday. Exactly. So, if it gets a little out of hand, then I will ditch it. But right now I'm quite happy to keep it as the, we call the Facebook group the pub, the bar, the hangout, the cocktail hour. And then, the real business stuff is in the forum. And that's what we call our boardroom.
Definitely. I think the forum format, and this is an area that I bang the drum on so much. It's such a big thing of Facebook groups versus forums. I think Facebook groups present an easy option for a lot of people because you don't have to mess with the tech. But I think the forum format is just so much better for conversations of substance. And for concentration as well. I don't know about you, Chris. I go to Facebook to goof off, to look at funny videos of cats, to catch up on what my old school friends are doing. And I'm in some Facebook groups I'll drop in, but it's all very light touch. Yes. So I do like in the execution of the Youpreneur hangout on Facebook is it's not come about in the way that a lot of people we see do it, where maybe they set it up in response to not being able to get any momentum on their forum. Mm-hmm. And so they cave into all these people saying, well, just put it on Facebook. It's so much easier. I think actually, a forum is very well worth the investment. And we don't know what Zuckerberg's going to decide to do with Facebook groups. If past histories, I think, go by, there'll be a point at which they're monetized.
Yes. And I think, that's okay to a certain degree in terms of a concept. I mean, they're a business. They have to monetize. But in what way is the big question. You're going to charge people to have a group, to host a group? Are you going to charge them based on the number of members, or are you just going to splatter it with adverts? Yeah. And I just, there's something about the Facebook group, and it doesn't spur on the right kind of conversations. And that damn newsfeed, the timeline on a group, it just disappears so quickly. And it's not friendly from a searchable perspective, whereas a forum is. And you can find a lot of goodness from just searching on a couple of, keywords inside of our forum. So, yeah, like I said, I think I've stated my my position on it quite solidly, and I stand by it.
Definitely. Now, speaking of Facebook, how is the quest for the elusive blue tick going?
I've given up. I've bloody given up. I swear. The only reason I want the blue tick is to do live video.
Yeah.
And apparently they're going to be slowly but surely rolling out live video.
I think they've started in just the US now, haven't they? Which
yeah. Well, Australia as well.
Right.
I see a couple of people in Australia that have already got it too. But I mean, I'm in the damn Philippines. I mean, God knows how long it's going to take to get here. But I'm happy to just carry on with Periscope. And, anything that I do on Periscope gets shot and recorded in HD with good quality audio on a separate iPhone at a slightly different angle. So we can always repurpose the content if we want to. And, there's like 25 videos that I haven't even used from Periscope broadcasts. So I suppose I should give them to one of my VAs and get cracking on editing them.
Definitely. And I mean, Periscope is obviously something you use in a big way. And I'm loving the whole new Duckerscope, the proper show setup with the backdrop and all that stuff. Snapchat is another channel that I've seen yourself and a whole bunch of Youpreneurs talking about. I still associate that with dodgy junk shots, so to speak.
Yes.
But you put yourself right out there, yeah.
Not that I want to start receiving a ton of them, but I haven't even had one.
Is this an open invitation? So anybody who this weekend download Snapchat,
spam the hell out of Ducker. I Snapchat for me is it's not something where I'm consuming content. I want to make that very clear. I'm watching very few other people's stories. Literally, I can count them on one hand. But I do like to use it as a publishing platform to share what I'm up to. And I really like it from a P2P that, I'm always harping on about my people-to-people relationship building focus. So for me, it's great, quick video, messages to Youpreneur members is what it's all about. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
but I'm just not like I'm doubling down on it or anything like that.
But it's kind of part of putting yourself everywhere and being right across all these different platforms. Is that something that's easier now that you have Youpreneur as kind of an anchor point, so you have something to kind of talk about essentially at the center of it, or is it harder because you've also got the work that comes with Youpreneur?
No, that's a really good question and a good a good observation. I mean, I think I don't think it's easier. It makes it more worthwhile. I think, whereas before, and I've never really been the type of person who just sort of splatters himself everywhere. I've always been quite focused on my platforms. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. Surprise, surprise. So I have focused on Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, now a little bit of Snapchat. But no, ultimately, man, what I'm all about is just building quality content, creating content and marketing it for my readers, my listeners, my viewers. So chrisducker.com is where you get the real deal. That everything I do, ultimately, everything I put any real effort into sits on my own domain name, including Youpreneur for that matter. So, I'm just, that's where the focus is really. But it's made it more worthwhile for sure. Yeah.
Now, obviously, the Youpreneur brand, I just love it. Callie and I were actually talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We normally have a special degree of hatred for preneur words, femtrepreneur, all these really, yeah. But actually, we both really like Youpreneur as a name, as a brand, and that's
now. Why is that? I'm curious to know.
I think it's because we'll see really forced attempts to tag that preneur part onto the most bizarre of words.
Yes,
I'm sure Callie has a mental list of the worst ones she's come across. I don't know if it's just because Youpreneur is just simpler, makes more sense, is slicker, if it sounds better. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just because of the sexy logo and the color scheme. Maybe that's won us over. Yeah. But beyond just the name, the actual true brand, and how quickly I think that's taken hold, particularly amongst the members. That doesn't always happen with the membership side, where you've got members tweeting pictures from the gym with their Youpreneur t-shirts on, and every shot of you now with your MacBook, it's your specially branded MacBook sticker, and it's all very slick. It's all very smart, and that's obviously all part of you really pushing for this global brand for your membership side.
And we'll focus in on more swag. There's more swag around the corner. I've just ordered a bunch of notebooks. Awesome. Like we're talking like moleskin, like debossed logo, beautiful quality. We're doing a lot of stuff on that side of things for our members. This isn't stuff we're just going to sell to anyone or give out to anyone. The only thing that I give out to non-Youpreneur members are our Youpreneur baller bands.
Yeah, you had a bunch of them at was that New?
Yeah, New Media Europe. Yeah, in fact, actually, I bought like 300 with me. Everybody in the audience, before my keynote, everyone in the audience had one of those given to them. Awesome. And I was very sneaky, very, very sneaky. I right at the top of the conversation, I said, "Okay, now put your hand up if you call yourself an entrepreneur. Put your hand up." So there's a photo of me on stage with like 300 people's hands in the air, and a good 70% of them are wearing it on on their wrist, and that's a little bit of advertising there.
Really, really smart. Awesome. So for just to kind of finish on, I suppose, on this subject of a global brand, for people out there who are trying to build their business, trying to gain that visibility, gain that momentum, and build their brand, what would be your three top tips for really building that global presence, really building up that personal brand or that business brand?
Well, I'd say first things first, don't start it unless you mean to go on. There's nothing worse than a non-starter. You don't launch it unless your heart and soul is in it, first of all. And I'm a big believer of that. The second thing I would say is that, really treat the launch like an event. Tell freaking everybody about it. And then when the dust has settled, tell them again and again and again, and keep telling them. And go into what I call the triple M, which is the maintenance marketing mode of your membership, and so people just see it everywhere. They find it everywhere, even when they're not looking for it. It pops up from time to time. You want that. You want things like the T-shirts in the gym, and people taking photos of their computer screen when they're on live mastermind calls and tweeting them out to all their followers. The baller bands, the notebooks, the mugs, the stickers on the laptops, and all that stuff. So just be really loud about it, not obnoxiously loud, but just be loud. Be loud. Tell everybody about it and be proud about what you're doing. And then lastly, I would say is that, be you all the time, regardless of what industry you're in, regardless of who you're serving, who your prospective customer is, regardless of what type of content you're focusing on in regards to, creating and marketing and utilizing to be able to spread the word about you, your mission, your focus, your brand, all the rest of it. Is just be you all the time. And, no smoke, no mirrors, no BS, just be you all the time, because people want to do business with other people. And when you're building a membership site based around an authority figure in some way, shape, or form, and they're always the most successful ones. Yeah. You've got to understand that you are going to have to do some work, and that people are going to buy into that because of you and what you're all about. And that's fine. And as long as you accept that and you embrace it, and you are you all the time, you'll ultimately be very successful. There's no doubt in my mind about it.
Love it. Love it. Now, for anyone who obviously wants to know more about Youpreneur, who wants to read more of your stuff, chrisducker.com, anywhere else, they can go to anything else, pimp away, whatever you...
Well, I mean, chrisducker.com is where, that's my home, my online home. That's where I do everything. But if they want to get a really good taste for Youpreneur, particularly in terms of, what it's like to be a Youpreneur, what it means to be a Youpreneur, and how you do business as a Youpreneur, we actually have a free immersion course called the Youpreneur Launchpad, which anybody can sign up for free. They can just go to chrisducker.com/launchpad. There's a load of videos, there's audio, there's PDF downloads, and a lot of other stuff as well that's delivered pretty regularly via email over the course of a couple of weeks or so. And by the time you're done with that, you'll either have that mindset shift that you need to start taking this a little bit more seriously. This is the holy grail. Building a membership site based around you, your brand, and what you stand for. That's the holy that trumps any product you can create, any ebook you can write, any podcast episode you can publish. Having recurring income coming in from a collection of raving superfans based upon what you are all about and your brand, that is it. I mean, this is the holy grail right here. And that Youpreneur Launchpad will give you a very, very clear indication as to how to build it properly.
Awesome. And of course, we always advise our own members that the best way to learn about building a membership site is to be part of membership sites, be part of more than one membership site, as long as one of those is our membership site. Make the other one Youpreneur.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome community, lots of really good stuff in, and as is abundantly clear through when you talk about Youpreneur, it's something you're massively passionate about, and there's lots of really good stuff ahead for the community. I'm excited to be part of it, and I'm excited to see what else is to come as well. Chris, thanks so much for taking time out of the day to join us on the Membership Guys podcast. I could rabbit on with you for much longer, but I know it's starting to eat into the evening now over there in the Philippines.
It is.
So I'm going to let you go. Thanks again for being on the show. Really enjoyed it.
No, it was all my pleasure. And thank you for having me on, Mike. You're a real inspiration in the industry, man.
Thanks again to Chris for taking the time out of his day to join me on the Membership Guys podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation about Youpreneur, about Chris's business, and there was a lot of really cool info that he shared, which hopefully you guys have got a lot out of. And of course, as we talked about in the podcast, if you want to know more about Chris, if you want to check out Youpreneur, then head over to chrisducker.com. That's it for this installment of the Membership Guys podcast. I'll be back again very soon with another episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Membership Guys podcast, we invite you to check out the membersiteacademy.com. The Member Site Academy is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a membership website. So whether you're still figuring out what your idea is going to be, or whether your website is already up and running and you're just looking for ways to grow it and attract new members, then the Member Site Academy can help you to get to the next level. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive member-only discounts, perks and tools, and a supportive community to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement and advice, the Member Site Academy is the perfect place to be for anyone looking to start, manage and grow a successful membership website. So check it out at membersiteacademy.com.